Hey guys, it's me. So to start off, I guess I should just say that, obviously, you know what happened. Telltale closed down. It's over. It's done. It's been about, 12 years since they opened, since they first started making games, and they're just done. No more Telltale. That's honestly kind of heavy. I started playing their games when they actually first started releasing them. I remember all the way back in 2006. But okay. So I suppose I got to get into it, I guess. To start off, I'm going to be going through pretty much all of Telltale's history, at least from my perspective. I want to stress that it's from my perspective, how I witnessed it as I grew up with it, not from behind the scenes, not from fact or anything other than that. Just me and my personal experience playing Telltale's games. So, here we go. First off, I remember it was around it was 2006 when I first picked up one of the first Telltale games. The first, actually. Very first they ever made. I remember it. Telltale Texas Hold'em. No, I'm just kidding. I played that later on. Way later on. Just because I wanted to see what it was like. Telltale's first game. I was a bit... I played almost every single one of their games. I really mean that. The stopping point for me was Jurassic Park. And there's a reason for that. We're going to have to get into that later. But to start off with, yes, I did play Bone way back in the good old days. It had been at least 6 months when they released it. And I discovered it through an advertisement from another website. You don't need to know what that website was, though. No, you don't need to know it. No, yeah, it's... Never mind. Fuck it. Fuck you. So, I played Bone. I really liked it. I thought it was awesome. It was a short game, though. It was really short. There wasn't much to it. But it had a lot of character. It was something that, not, for back then at least, you didn't really see before. It was completely, different. There was the art style. It was a lot of care went into this really lame product, and I wanted to see more of it, obviously. So I stayed in touch with it, and because they left the game on a cliffhanger. And then one day I came back to it. I came back to the Telltale website, and there it was. Bone 2, The Great Cow Race. Oh boy. Oh. And that was even better. It was awesome. It was awesome when you're 12 years old and you're not really all that. You're kind of a fucking lame ass kid, which I was. But I enjoyed it because if you're a lame-ass kid, why wouldn't you? Well, anyway, obviously I thought there was going to be a third Bone game. There wasn't. It never happened. That's another one of the Telltale's titles that never became another game. Wow, good job, Telltale. You lost the license because you didn't put time and effort into it. Wow, I haven't heard that one before. I'm sorry if I get really cynical about Telltale. It's just I want to say this. They had potential. Every time they released something, it was always this is great, but you could have done better because I know you can. Everyone who played their games knew that Telltale could always do better. There was always room for improvement when it came to a Telltale product. Every single time. They always had an incredibly creative team on board with them. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. We're going to dial it back a little bit. It's still 2006. Bone 2 was released. The next big Telltale project gets announced like maybe 3 months later. And I've never heard of this. What the fuck is this? It's Sam and Max. And that apparently, that was it. That was what Telltale wanted to create from the beginning. Because I don't know if you guys know Telltale's history, but the reason they became Telltale Games is because they were former LucasArts employees that were working on a Sam & Max 2, and they were all like, well, they weren't fired. That game like got into like a budget cut, and then it was canceled, and the staff worked really hard on it, so they were just like, well, you know what, fuck. We spent all this time working on a game that we never were able to create, so what are we gonna do? They all jumped ship, and they just built themselves up from the ground. And that's how we get to Sam and Max, Season 1. And oh my god, I thought Bone was great. Sam and Max was phenomenal. This game was so goddamn good. Every time they released an episode, it was like, it's getting better. It's getting funnier. It's just fucking great every time. That was so awesome. They kept releasing this fucking game, and I loved it. And up until like the final episode of Season 1, Bright Side of the Moon. What a series. Telltale outdid themselves. And then they went quiet for a little bit. No one really heard from them. Then, yes, they did it again, guys. In November of 2007, they released it. Sam and Max Season 2. Oh my god. And it was even better. No, it wasn't. I have like mixed opinions about Season 2. This leads into my qualms about this company, because you guys can do better. You guys can certainly do better. It was great. They improved pretty much everything. Like, the animation was better. The graphics were the same. They didn't really... The Telltale never really upped their graphics, and whatever they were using to create their games, they never really improved upon it until way later. It's like they tweaked it just enough so that it would always look different for any game that they made. They would update the textures, but the character models, those character models, let me tell you something about that, son. Something that always annoyed me, and it's especially in a game that I'm about to talk about in a couple minutes coming up. They reuse their assets, because Telltale made games on a budget. And you could clearly see that, but at the same time, Telltale made quite a substantial amount of money. I feel like, I don't know personally, if you're gonna correct me on this, please don't. Because in all honesty, I don't care that much. But from my perspective, and other people's perspective as well, they could have put more effort into making a more, flowing product, but they always reused assets. They always recycled old locations, characters, textures, going back to old models every single time. Season 2 of Sam & Max was around I'd say 40% new content, and then they just kept reusing old characters and old settings. They did it in a creative way, I guess, but in Season 2 of Sam & Max, there's the episode called... It's the dog one. Fuck. I'm just going to call it the time travel one, because for some reason it's escaping my mind. It really shouldn't be. No, Chariot of the Dogs. That's what it is. In Chariot of the Dogs, they basically go back in time. And every single location that they're going back in time in is is a location that was already seen to us. Like we see Stinky's Diner and the White House, a whole bunch of other locations. They could have like sat down and made like other places, but they didn't. But at the same time, Telltale was still creative enough where they can just basically make anything and still have enough of an edge to where it was good and it was original. Even though Chariot of the Dogs was like 70% like reused material, they still did a damn good job. That's probably one of the best like episodes of the Sam and Max games. I'm not going to talk about that yet. I really want to keep talking about that, sorry. But anyway, so Season 2 is finished. It is April of 2008. Season 2's wrapped up. 5 episodes. Oh, God, it was so good. What was Telltale gonna drop the next game? Because they've been milking Sam and Max for a while. But no, they didn't. They announced the next game a week after, I think it was a week. Or actually, I think it was actually a day after they released the What's New Beelzebub. And what that was, I think that just it changed everything again. They took a popular Flash animation on the internet and they made it an adventure game, and that was Strong Bad's Cool Game for Attractive People. And holy shit, they outdid themselves again. They did it, guys. They did it again, and they just kept doing it again. This game, this 5 episodes of Homestar Runner, the adventure game. Oh my god! And it was just like the Flash animations. It was like you were like reliving your fucking childhood. You got to like go on Strong Bad's like computer and on his lappy and like read fucking emails. And it was great. That was awesome. And then what happened? Well, I honestly, like, I don't really have any bad things to say about Strong Bad. It was fine. It fell under Telltale's inability to perfect their games. Like, the whole reason they had an episodic formula, at least what they claim, was that they could have time to work on standalone titles, like Episode 1, Episode 2, 3, etc., and they would be able to refine these 1-hour segments and make them as polished as they could. That's a lie. That's a lie, because they were rarely as polished as they could have been. I understand that like they updated most of the games later on, but when they were released, Strong Bad especially was graphically impaired. Like, many of the characters' eyes would just be disappeared. Some of the characters' models were missing their heads at certain times. It was bad. It was really bad. Like, they never sat down and polished their stuff. I'm just going to summarize it like that. So, 5 episodes of Strong Bad, and it was good. It was really good. But what was their next project? Not many people know about this because actually Telltale, I think, stopped advertising it. I even would dare to say that they stopped selling it entirely on their site. But they dropped the ball. They announced it. They went further. They made a Wallace and Gromit adventure game. And it was really mediocre. It was okay. It was decent. The Curse of the Were-Rabbit video game and Project Zoo were better Wallace and Gromit games. And those weren't even like, well, they were actually closer to the source material. Well, so I guess you could say that, you could definitely say that this game was too. It was decent. It just was, like, it had 4 episodes, and it tried hard, but it just wasn't great. it wasn't up to Telltale quality. That game also had a lot of bugs in it, but I don't want to talk about that, honestly. Like, Wallace and Gromit was just kind of eh. I liked it. It was okay. But moving on. So, that was 2008 to 2009. Now we're getting up into the current decade. We're hitting the big 1-0. 2010. I'm sorry. I think I left something out. They released another game. What was it? It was. I don't think it was that big. I'm just kidding. It was Monkey Island. They brought it back. They brought it back. The quintessential title of adventure games. The Godfather. The Jesus of Nazareth of point and click adventures, and they did it. They brought it back, and it was 10 out of 9.5 out of 10. That game, 5 episodes of that fucking game, and it was really awesome. Like, it was as good as Sam & Max, if not, I would argue, better. At that point, Telltale was refined enough that their games were a lot more polished, and the writing was better, the graphics were better, the art style was immaculate. It felt like you were finally playing the Monkey Island game that they always wanted us to play, like, because it was just that good. It was that fucking good. Wow. I really liked every single episode of Monkey Island. The Tales of Monkey Island. Unfortunately, though, this is a good example of why Telltale was never as good as they should have been, because they had this thing, and this is coming back, the recycling part that I mentioned earlier when talking about Sam & Max Season 2. They did reuse locations. Like, in Episode 4 of Monkey Island, they reused the first location, Flotsam Island. And that was fine. Honestly, it was expected because of where it comes back in the story. They changed the island just enough so that it felt like a completely different place. But the characters, almost every single character in that goddamn game was a reused asset. Guybrush Threepwood's model was used on a character in Episode 3. His name is escaping me. Every short, fat character, same model. Every woman character has the same model. They're basically all the same. It's just kind of sad. It's just kind of sad, because, like, Telltale has the ability to... They just never put the 110%, I guess. And if they did, I didn't see it. And I don't think this was like a glaring problem. People were really disappointed that Telltale just kept using the same character models and other assets. It was just, maybe you can say I'm nitpicking all you want, but play the games yourselves. Play those games yourselves, and you will see them. You will notice what I'm talking about. Oh, and it's not just the character models. It's the animations as well. Frequently, you will always see a character do this. I'm not even kidding you. The finger gun. Like a snap of the finger, and then they point. And then like one where they like raise their eyebrow. It's like a set of animations. They're not detailed. It's like it's a script. It's a scripted event that happens when a character reaches a certain stage in a cutscene or any other dialogue. And that, you could argue that's fine. But I argue that it kind of takes away from a lot of things when you notice that 3 or 4 different people all do this. at the same time. I argue that's kind of annoying because I don't know. Do you like? They left this in Monkey Island. There's a scene where two characters do the finger gun at the same time in the same scene, and it's so obnoxious. It's like, are you kidding me? You Telltale, you could do so much better. But I'm sorry. I should have put a disclaimer in the beginning of this video that I was gonna go on a rant, because this was a 10-year-long rant that has been building up to this moment. I was a Telltale fan from the beginning, and I've watched them progress to get to this point where suddenly they're cut. They're fucking dead now. All of the things, all the work that those people put in to these games, good or bad, it's gone. Their efforts are gone and wasted. And they were wasted back then too. Even if it was at a very minimal, very minuscule amount. But I digress. That was Monkey Island. It was a great season. It left on a cliffhanger that always promised us a season 2. Anyway, December of 2009 was when it ended. And when you finished the 5th episode of Tales of Monkey Island, the end credits rolled up, but there was something else. There was something else. But what was it? It was a little pirate flag that had a skeleton Max head on it, and it had a website link, salmonmax2010.com. And my heart started pumping. As fast as I could, I typed it into the URL, and there it was. Telltale announced, without actually announcing it, Sam & Max Season 3, The Devil's Playhouse. And it was the best one out of all of them. It was... Wow. It skyrocketed. Like, the quality from Season 2... Shoo! The graphics were better. The jokes! The locations! They even actually... They put effort into their locations. Episode 1 was all about, like, exploring the brand new city of New York, but it was changed because of an alien invasion. And episode 2 was about them going through an astral projected vision of the 1900s, where Sam and Max's great-grandfathers were crime detectives, and they were uncovering the mysteries of an ancient Egyptian tomb. And then, oh my god, this season was the best out of all of them. Telltale actually, that right there, it still had a lot of issues, a lot of glaring issues, but it proved that if they wanted to put a shit ton of effort into an IP, they would, and they wouldn't skimp. And they did Sam and Max justice, because that's probably the last bit of that franchise that we will ever see again. And that's okay. If we never see Sam and Max again, I think that's okay. Telltale did it justice, and that's fine. I could make an entire video about why I think Sam & Max Season 3 is the best season, but I won't. I won't go that far. Because this, I'm afraid, is where everything stops. This is where we have to sit back and start to take notice, because all of the issues that I mentioned, the recycling, the minimal amount of effort put into small details eventually grew larger. And then, well, now we are in 2011. And 2 franchises are announced. Back to the Future and Jurassic Park. And I don't need to tell you how excited I was, because if you were around back then, if you had actually seen that your favorite video game company was making a Back to the Future adventure game, I think you can honestly, I don't need to describe how amazing that is in your brain, because it speaks for itself. Wow, so we get to release date. I don't really know. I kind of started to lose interest around Telltale, because Back to the Future, when the first episode came out, it was really good, and I enjoyed it. But remember when I talked about Monkey Island, the finger snap, the reused, recycled locations, the shoddy uses of their animation, it all came back in Back to the Future. And that was really disappointing, because all I could think to myself was, wow, guys, you have one of the biggest movie franchises ever at your disposal, and this is what you're doing with it? I don't know, I feel like you could do better. And unfortunately, they just didn't. They just didn't. It was still, for 5 episodes, all in all, I wouldn't count it a waste of time, but every other Telltale game, even Wallace and Gromit, I have played more than once. Sam & Max, I think I played every single season well over 30 times. Same with Monkey Island. I've exhausted every single dialogue, every single item description, anything that you can think of in a Telltale game, I went to the nth degree to play it. And Back to the Future was not the case. I didn't enjoy it as much. It was just remarkably disappointing from a company that proved that if they wanted to, they could make it phenomenal. But yeah. So with that being said, a couple months after Back to the Future was released, this was it, Jurassic Park. And Jurassic Park was the first Telltale game that I didn't pre-order, because I was just kind of losing interest at that point. The progression of watching them do what they do, all of the issues kept coming back up over and over again, and I was ready. I was ready to see it in Jurassic Park, and you know what? I did. And Jurassic Park was the worst Telltale game ever. The glitches skyrocketed. The story was bad. The characters were bad. It was the first Telltale game that had the what most people know of Telltale today, the Walking Dead thing. I didn't play Walking Dead. I want to say that. I never played anything after Jurassic Park. So I'm not going to talk about The Walking Dead. I'm not going to go into detail about how, I think that the past Telltale games are better. From the gameplay I've seen of The Walking Dead, I love I am going to stress that I think that they look infinitely better than The Walking Dead. I'm sure that it's fun. I'm sure that it's emotional, but that's not the Telltale that I knew. And if you want to argue with me about that, you go ahead. I have no ground outside of the 6 years that I spent playing their games. So yeah, it's been a ride. It has really been like something else. I have checked back and looked at other Telltale products. I think because like I said earlier that I saw like these kind of issues that were going to come up again, and they kept coming up. They come back. A lot of The Walking Dead and other Telltale games after that, they all have that issue where it's the same scripted animation, the same stilted character models, reused elements. It's just lazy. It's lazy. And it makes sense why Telltale took a dive. Because the fact is that Telltale had so many fucking products. Like, if you actually have been watching, you've been keeping up, why don't we count? Why don't we count how many products they've made? Bone, Sam and Max, all three of them. We're going to count all three of them. Strong Bad, Wallace and Gromit, Back to the Future. Oh, I didn't forget this one, Puzzle Agent, The King's Quest, what was that other one? The Walking Dead, The Wolf Among Us. Holy shit. I can keep going. They have made so many games, and they have not finished most of them. Monkey Island, Season 2, where was that? They never made it. It is a historical relic, and it has passed into oblivion. Telltale let it go. It's sailed. It's gone. It's up. Gone. Whew! It's not coming back. And yeah. So I suppose I should wrap this up soon. Telltale was a company that was one of the most creative minds put together in an office space, and they created what I would consider at least art. It was imperfect. It was shoddy at its worst, but at the end of the night, you can pick up a Telltale game and you can say, you know what, that was good. I enjoyed playing that, and I don't feel like I wasted my time, because the writing, the comedy, pretty much everything about any Telltale game is that there is just enough to see and do that it makes you feel like you didn't waste your money. And it was fun. And at the end of the night, that's what a game is. It's fun. So, Telltale was my childhood, in a sense. And it's such a shame to see where they have gone and what they are now. So yeah. Thanks for watching, kiddos.